Tableau Prep helps you quickly and confidently transform and shape your data for analysis. See all your data at a glance with Tableau Prep's visual, direct, and coordinated interface. Connect to the data you care about, whether it's a spreadsheet, in an on-premises database, or in the cloud. Visually combine, instantly reshape, and quickly clean your data from multiple sources. Combining data has never been easier. Simply drag and drop, and Tableau Prep automatically joins your data together. Instantly see the outcome of joins to spot exclusions. Use calculations to express your data in different ways. Find inconsistencies and outliers, and fix them in an instant. Smart grouping algorithms make it easy to reorganize your data. Tableau Prep helps you find and fix problems in your data, all without writing a single line of code. With Tableau Prep, you can see all your transformations and instantly revert back to any step of the process. And it's integrated with Tableau, so you can put your data to use right away. Or publish to Tableau Server or Tableau Online, so you can share your data with others in a governed and secure way. Tableau Prep, the visual, direct, and integrated way to prep your data.
All right, we can watch it once. Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming to the session. My name's Clark Wildenrod. I am a designer at Tableau. For the last 3 years, I've been working on bringing Tableau Prep to market. So this talk, I'm going to try and talk about the things that led up to what you see in the current products. It'll be an interesting look back at basically all the things that failed. So let's start here. Does anybody know what this picture is? Any ideas? No? None? A what? A map. It's not a pixelated map. Charred oysters. It's charred oysters. They're delicious. Have anybody had any? All right, let's try this one. Any guesses on what this is? Yeah, that's right. That's a very scandalous place. Bourbon Street, down in the French Quarter. All right, what about this?
The window this morning.
Summers in Seattle.
Same thing.
No, this is our winter. Okay, so I live in Seattle, but I'm a Midwesterner, born and raised in Chicago. I'm also a father. I've got 2 young boys. I've got another on the way. And I'm giving this talk because I'm a designer. So why did I show you all those pictures zoomed in and zoomed out? Well, you'll find out. First, what's Tableau Prep? Anyone here use Tableau Prep? Who doesn't use Tableau Prep? All right. Do the people that don't use Tableau Prep know about Tableau Prep? Okay, great. All right, so Tableau Prep is a new tool that Tableau has released to help you intuitively, clean, combine your data. A little bit about Tableau. So we're a very mission-driven company. Everyone at the company will tell you that our whole mission is to help people see and understand data, and you'll understand that more and more as you meet people that work there. Like, we really believe that, and that's what drives everything that we do. So when we started out making Tableau Prep, this is one of the driving things. But creating a new product needs some sort of guidelines, right? And so one of the things that we like to hold dear to all of our products is we want them to be easy to use, simple, and beautiful. It's a really hard thing to actually accomplish. The elevator pitch that we would give everyone was, because everyone would want to know, what are you guys making? What are you making? What are you making? It took a long time to figure out what it was we were making. And the hardest part was to tell people, what are you making? How does it feel? What does it do? And the thing that we all came down to repeating over and over is, this is a visual and direct tool. We want people to see their data, and we want people to actually take action right there. So let me do a quick demo. All right. So this is I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the product here. So this is the general UI, right? You can grab tables and drag them in. And in this step, you have an input step. So you're given a brief overview of what's in this table. So this has 2 fields. I can understand what the types of fields are, some basic sample values. I can mess around with any of the settings that it's bringing in. And then when I'm ready, I can start exploring it a little bit more. So I can add a step to look at it further. And this is more of what the bread and butter of the UI really is. We want people to quickly see what's in these tables, so I can understand, okay, there's 2 fields, crane and age, and I can quickly see all the values and roughly what the number of values that are there as well. And I can do the same for the next step, and you can see that real quickly, like, there's a list of costs, and then there's a whole bunch of months here. And if you look at this particular field, you could say, well, billable cost USD. So there's a bunch of things that are sort of repeating. So we want to be able to allow people to, just quickly say, okay, well, can you clean this up for me? So if you ask the product to, hey, group these things by pronunciation, we'll run an algorithm over it, and we'll quickly group those. And you can look and see, when I select this, I can see what is grouped inside of there. And then if you see any mistakes, you can say, hey, well, this one was left out, and you just add it back in. So quick demo, just to give you an overview. I'll go back and forth between demos just to make you comfortable with the stuff that I'm talking about. So the things that we're basically going to cover are what was the process of starting a V1 sort of in Tableau. It's a super hard process in general, but at an established company with an established product, it's even harder. And then I'm going to focus on how we designed the flow pane, how we designed the profiles, and then how we designed the join experience. And I'll give you a whole bunch of examples of the things on the way. All right. What's this picture? Yes. But it's also really good. So this is a picture my son did, but it's a really, I think, great depiction of the design process. The blue and the orange, yeah. But here's a better idea. So when Tableau Prep started as sort of in the research part of the development org, it was, we talked to a lot of customers, and we kept seeing a lot of times come up of people having problems bringing their data in, clean data, keeping quality, understanding, how to clean that up. They had to go through lots of hoops. They used other products that they didn't like. And so we started seeing patterns. And the patterns started forming of, I think we probably need to do something about that, because we thought we could do a much better job to help people along this journey. And so then once we sort of decide we're going to move forward, then we start ideating. this process is a lot about, okay, we're going to do something about the patterns that we're seeing. So what are we going to make? And there's a lot of questioning, well, what are we going to make all the time? We spin through a lot of ideas. We spin through a lot of things that don't go well. And it's usually one step forward, 10 steps back for about a month at a time. And then there's this moment where all of a sudden things just start making sense. And you can start just iterating and going and going and going. And so I'm going to show you some of the parts that led up to the iterating. Right up, the uncomfortable stuff, actually. But most importantly, this talk and the product is about perspective. We think, everyone is really smart. If you give someone the right information, they're going to make a well-informed decision. And so most of the time it was trying to figure out, how do we give people that right perspective? How do we control and understand and present that information to allow people to make the most informed decisions? So, perspective. What does this number mean? Bad luck. 13. How would you know? There's no context. What about now? I'm going to give you a row. Does that help? A little bit? I mean, kind of. How about when you look at it in this context? If I give you the whole table, does it help you understand what that number 13 means? What? Baseball stats? It is baseball stats. So 13 is the number of hits of player ID BARROFO1. Do you know anything about that? Is that good? Is it bad? You have no idea, but you're looking right at it, right? What about now? You find the hit profile. Is 13 good? Average? Pretty average. Pretty average, but now you have a better understanding. So Tableau Prep is all about 3 integrated panes. You have the flow pane up at the top, you have the profiles in the middle, and then you have the row levels at the bottom. But really, to get to this understanding that we want 3 panes that interact with each other, it took thinking about it a little bit differently. So let's look at this. What are we looking at? Earth, picture of the globe. That red dot is where we're at. Does that help you understand? Imagine you were just dropped here. Does this help you understand where you are? Well, at least you're still on Earth. How about now? Giving you a little bit more context. Okay, I'm in the US. I'm on the Gulf. Okay, I'm in a city. There's a lot of streets around me. There's a river. What about now? This was from yesterday. I forgot to update the slide. You're not on this floor. But if you're given a floor plan, right, it gives you more context of what's immediately around you, and that's what's a little bit more important. So think about Tableau Prep like this. The flow pane is your 50,000-foot view. I can see the world of my data. The profile pane, it's my 5,000-foot view. I get to see what's around me. I can quickly understand what's there. And then if I want to see what's really, really fine-grained detail, I can look at the row level data in the bottom. And so when we started thinking about we started thinking about zoom levels of data. We want people to understand their data in 3 ways at the exact same time. And so this was when things started to really click for us, of like, hey, this is super useful, and if we get this right, the interaction between the 3, it's going to be very powerful. All right. Well, when we started, things looked like this. Does this help you? No. Things are bad when they start. Ideas are ugly, but you don't want to kill them. So we still had the flow, we still had profiles, and we still had row level. But we weren't sure how to sort of balance them. We played around with other ideas. Let's hide the data inside of the information and have you search for it. But you can still see things at different levels. This is not. This is going totally away from what we were really trying to do. And then this one. Well, we want people to understand what are the steps. We want them to sort of, track what they're doing. But it's still not really helping me see this. So we churned on a lot of failures. How about this? It's not profiling anything. It's basically giving me all the tables at a row level. Does it help me understand this more? No. We tried thinking about, what if you had different parts of the flow that you could just open up and look at? So you can dive in, you can leave it open, you can close it and come back. It was an interesting idea, but it was not this related pane situation that we were really going for. And then I would say about a year into it, we landed somewhere around here, where we started presenting this internally at Tableau to just gain reaction, interest. Does this land with people? And we're showing it to private users too. But this was the first time where we started to think we were onto something. We'd really landed on the 3 panes. We were figuring out how to sync them all together. But once you have this sort of thing, then people start asking, well, what can I do? Can I do this? Can I do that? We get a lot of requests. Wait, can we do this? Wait a minute, hold on. I want to combine it. Too many things. So many things. Everyone wants another feature in the product. So when you're just figuring out what is it we're making, and now you have a whole backlog of things you have to put into it, it's super hard to focus. And so what we had to do is to break them down. What are the buckets and themes that all of this stuff can fit in? How do I make sure that we cover all of these ideas, all of these things people want to do? Well, we always talk about you want to create user flows to make sure that you're covering what a user would accomplish. What's a user flow for a new product? How many flows is okay to design against? There's millions, billions of possible flows that there could be. So the hardest thing was to figure out, what are these buckets? What do all these features fit into? And how can someone, from an abstract, design around all of these buckets? So every time you're going to use the product, you're probably going to start it, load data, you're going to want to see it, clean it, combine it, review it, manage it. So once we figured out what the themes were, it was really great because we could start focusing on what these areas are. And the first one that we're going to look into is the seeing your data at the flow level. I'm going to skip the demo here because it's not that important. So there's 2 parts of design, really. There's the visual and emotional part of design, and there's also the functional part of design. And you have to balance those 2. And so when we started thinking about, well, we want to have the flow as a self-documenting area. We want people to glance at it and have this understanding. What are the other things in your life that sort of do that? And so we started looking around at other things. This is a wiring diagram. It shows a lot of detail. It gives you an idea, but it's super complex and hard to decipher and read. In my previous job, I did a lot of mapping. I did maps for like airports and hospitals and corporate facilities, and I've always been drawn to subway maps. There's a huge amount of information there. It's very simple, and everyone can sort of look at it and follow things. And so I looked at a lot of subway maps and tried to figure out, well, how can we sort of bring a lot of this information in? One of the great things about subway maps is, it just uses like 3 different styles. It uses colors, it uses shapes, and it uses like typography and iconography. And it's able to accomplish a lot. So that's on the visual side. We're trying to balance out, what do we want this to feel like? What do we want it to look like? On the functional side, we're trying to figure out, what do we want this to actually do? We want the flow to understand stuff as people are doing it. We want it to document it. We don't want people to have to think about it. So as they continue to do stuff to their data, we want to track that. Great. So we've done all that then I'm bringing more data in. And I want to continually track this. And I want to bring these together. I'm going to union these. And then bring in more tables. This is just, an example of what a lot of people would like to do. And join those tables together and then make a whole bunch of transformations again. This isn't easy to decipher. It's not easy to read. I can't glance at it. I have to actually really digest it. So we started to, code things, break it apart by color. That allows things to jump out immediately. Okay, but if I'm looking at it from this view, do I need to read everything, or can I become familiar with a little bit more of some sort of icon treatment and figure out, okay, I can clean up the visual styling of it by just removing text. Great. But do I need to know everything that happened, or just need to know that stuff happened? What stuff? Can I track everything that happened and start grouping them into singular actions? And that's cleaning things up already. And so it's naturally starting to clean all of this up. So back to the visual. We played around with, do we want this to be an emotional sort of product that has artistic, like a stronger artistic stance? Played around with size and color. Do those mean things? Shape. We pushed on using different icons in general. This example was more along the artistic, but it was interesting to a lot of people, but it didn't make sense. They were distracted by it. It wasn't purpose. There was no purpose to it. We landed on this example next, which was, if we're going to track these things, can I just take the part of where the data is flowing through and then just put the icons above it and break it out by color? And this was probably one of the first drawings that led us to what you see in the product now, which is colors, icon, text. Super simple, super clean, very easy to read from a distance. So understanding domains, the profile. Profiles in general are super compact with information. But it was really strange to try and find that balance where I can glance and look at this and get all that information still. when we were talking to people originally, what we kept seeing was, and I'm sure a lot of you do this, if they wanted to figure out what their data set was, they would bring it into Tableau Desktop, and they would start making small little vizzes. And the vizzes were all profiles. They were making profiles to familiarize themselves with the data. This was something we saw over and over. It was a major theme. So we thought, let's just let people skip that, you know? Let's auto-profile stuff for them. But profiles are super hard because if you drag this data set into Tableau, you'll get this view. But if you change the view to fit height, you'll get this view. And so what you really want is, you obviously want to see everything that's in that field. Because if you didn't fit height, you'd have no idea about that huge outlier. And this is ages. And it goes up to 999. I don't know that many people that old. So a few things we started playing around with were, okay, I can't show you all of the data. I can't show it to you in two ways at once. Or can I? How do I do that? I need to show you the values. I need to show you the range. I need to show you the shape. I want to show you the distribution. I want to tell you the cardinality. There's so much information I want to tell you. How do I cleanly pull that out? And so we played around with overlapping text on distributions like this. I can see the distinct values. And then at the top, I can see the whole set. So I can see what I'm looking at that's highlighted maybe. And then I can see little outliers popping out. We started on trying to play around with, can we use color to strongly encode things more, to make things pop out? Can we bin the distributions? Or should we, actually measure them and draw them in the right size? In this example, we were trying to take the distributions and remove them from underneath the text. And then we were trying to figure out, do I justify all of the text on the left, on the right? Can I take the distribution and justify it on the right and push it to the left? Does that make sense? We would show these things to people, and we'd get all types of crazy reactions. We would do prototypes like this one, where I'm trying to figure out what's the selection model that we want to deal with, and how does that color overlay with the text work. And we were playing around earlier on of like, I want to let people switch from a continuous view that shows the whole histogram here, and more of a discrete view, which lets me see the actual values. So this was one of the earlier ideas, and this one was actually really fun. We thought about, what about it if we have like a lens that's over the data, and you move the lens to see, it's like a microscope, so you can move it over the data to see the stuff that you want to see, and then stuff that falls out, it falls out underneath the lens, so it goes up and it goes down. We liked this idea a lot, actually, and we started playing with it, and we started drawing out different versions of it. We had a researcher that was working with this idea for a long time, too, and what ended up happening was we actually put it in code. So this is Tableau Prep, about 2 years ago. All types of really strange things that are happening because it takes a long time to get things right. But we started using that sort of idea where the histogram would spill out on the top and the bottom. We called it the zippy line. We brought this into the first alpha that we had. This was close. This is a little bit before the alpha, but the profile state was similar to this when we went into an alpha. And that was where we were taking customers that we knew were super interested in this product, and we were asking them questions. Could they understand their data? Can you load your data? Does this help you? Does this make sense? And the feedback we were getting was they had no idea what they were looking at. Do you see your distribution? Can you tell me? And they were like, no, I just see these values. Do you see this part below those values? Oh my God, no, I didn't see that. Okay, well, what is it? They didn't know. Okay, it was not going to work out. So back to the drawing board. I think we have hackathons every quarter at Tableau, and so we're constantly just doing crazy hackathons, and we have really great stuff that comes to product out of those. But one of our developers was like, hey, you know, we have these things in all of our coding environments called mini-maps, and it's very common and well-known, and we're like, oh, okay, interesting. And he's like, I think we should do that in the profiles. I was like, great, okay, let's try it. And so they did, and out of the hackathon came basically what the profiles are today in terms of the mini-map. So we take the whole distribution, and we turn that into your scroll bar. So you can see where outliers are by looking at the mini-map basically to the side. We showed this to customers, and it was just immediately landing with people. So it didn't land like this right away. This is a video from the current product. But when we landed on the mini-map, things just started to fall in place. So if you go back to in the beginning when I was talking about the like 1 step forward, 10 steps back, we took a lot of steps back to finally land at this. But once we got here, quick iterations, quick iterations, quick iterations, and things were making sense. All right, next I'm going to talk about joins. So, joins. I forgot this. So this is the current join interface. I'll familiarize you with it. So I've selected a join here in the flow. Oh, what's happened? Sorry, thank you. This is the current join interface in the product. So if I select a join in the flow, I get this information down here. And what this is we have a left panel over here. And this panel has all of my join clauses that I want to create. I can easily change them. It has the join type that is currently applied, and I can easily click and change that. And then it has a summary here, which shows me what is the view of my data at a different zoom level. It helps me understand this is the resulting join. This is how many rows are in it. These are the parts of the table that are included, what's matched, what's mismatched. And then I can select those and actually look at the stuff that's unmatched and excluded. And I can come back and I can see this. And here you get to look at the two fields that it's joining against. And so you can quickly look at those, and then we color code them so that you understand, you know, what's mismatched. And I can filter just to those. And I can filter those by just one table. And then I can see the resulting join table over here. And that also allows me to see, you know, we color code which table is what. All right. So back here, how did joins start? Super awkwardly. joins, at its very simplest, I'm going to take two tables, I'm going to push them together based on one field that they have in common. And I'm going to make a larger table from that, right? So if you're familiar with Tableau Desktop, we have a dialog that pops up. You can pick fields from it, and then you have a resulting join set. You don't get to see anything when you use that dialog. All you get to see is field names. You don't get to see any of the data. You don't get to see what happened to that join. You then have to start making vises in order to confirm a lot of that stuff. And so we're trying to bring that information, again, back to the forefront of people so that while they're making the joins, they can figure that out. So one of the earlier ideas was a bit of a play on what was currently in desktop, right? Let me see the fields, the field names. Let me see the row data so I have an understanding of basic sampling of what the data looks like. And can you give me a percentage of like how successful that join is? Do I understand what that means though? A lot of people were like, that's great, but I have no idea what actually happened. You're giving me a hint, but nothing more. Can you give me more information? And so we kept looking at it of like, what information do we want to know? And so we did a lot of sketches on real quick of like, what's happening between these joins? What are the parts that's falling out? What are the parts that's falling in? Is there a way that I can sort of highlight stuff, right? How can I figure out what's going right, what's going wrong? And we made mock-ups, just like we did before. So this mock-up was based off of a very, very, like a five row data set. But the intention was to figure out, like, can we figure out a way to just really quickly understand what's going right and what's going wrong between a super small data set. So we started we were highlighting in the profiles and in the rows, you know, what's successful and what's not successful in the join. What's coming from what table? What are the fields that are being joined on? What's the percentage of join success, of which everyone was like, what does that mean? What does the percentage mean here? And so this is the part where we're trying to throw stuff out, and we're just trying to see what lands, right? Take more ideas, more ideas. And so we asked ourselves, well, some of that was good, but that's really only for 5 rows. What happens if I've got 1 million or 10 million or 100 million rows? How can I quickly see that? Well, you really can't if you have that level of detail. So we started thinking about the zoom level again. How do I understand it at a different perspective? And so this is when we thought about the overview. Give me an idea of what's going to survive at a sort of disjointed level. And so we started sketching on really quickly of like, well, how could we do that? Could we do stacked bars? Can we do other crazy ideas? What's an easy way to understand that you've got these two tables, these things match, this is coming in, that's coming in, they come together. We were drawing all types of stuff. We had a PM that was working on the product that would come in and he would say, I had a dream last night and it was about a join diagram. And I was like, what's wrong with you? And he would be like, quick, let me show it to you. And he'd draw it up onto the whiteboard. And we would talk about it. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it was the second from the left. And we started calling it the Isaac diagram. His name was Isaac. But we really, we started showing it to people and asking them, does this make sense? And if you talk about it while you're drawing it, they're like, yeah, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, I'm gonna show you, the whole idea was, well, this is another version of it, is like, this table over here, this is a table over here, And this is the part that matches with this part, and when they come together, you have this resulting thing. And this is the stuff that doesn't match, this is the stuff that doesn't match, and is this landing with you? And everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. And so then I would say, okay, don't tell them what it means, just draw it. Nobody had any idea what it was. So it was like, okay, I think we have the right information. We are not doing a good job helping people understand it. So we really were like, okay, let's take it back. Let's do something really simple. We have the right information. Let's do it in a couple of different ways. So we started drawing things in just simple bar charts, overlapping, stacked things, stuff that's made up, Venn diagrams that extended the current iconography for a join that we'd been using. We took the Isaac diagram over here and made it a little fancier to see if people could understand it that way. It still didn't work. We started doing some really weird stuff because we weren't really sure if we were going to land on anything, and so tried to explore like just crazy ideas, and everyone had a good laugh, and then we moved on because that was not going to work either. And then we started to bring stuff together, right? Okay, show me the profiles, show me this overview. Let me pick the different join types and see what happens. This is one of the earlier prototypes that started bringing it all together. So, as you're changing the join type, you can see the overview updating, which is giving you a really cool, quick glance at like what's successful, what's not, what's kind of happening under the scenes. If I select something, I can look into it further. Starting to, again, highlight things that match, or that mismatch in a way, and just playing around with that. And a lot of those things started to land with people. And so that was sort of the moment where we were like, okay, I think we can start iterating. We can iterate. And so we went from here, thinking about how do we show these stacked bars still. We kept playing around with, orientation, color, treatment. This is another version. I think this actually made it into the product for the alpha. If any of you were in the alpha program, I'm sure you saw something similar to this. And then we started having conversations about the order in the left pane. I have the join clause up here, summary's all the way at the bottom. People actually stopped seeing the summary when it was all the way at the bottom, so then we had to move it back up. There's all types of really small changes that we were having to make to sort of land at what we finally got to. But one of the hard things is when you design something, there's no chance that you're going to get all of that in the product. You're going to have to make some concessions, and you're going to have to figure out what's the most valuable part and what's the least valuable part, if anything, or what can you afford to not put in there. And let me go back here. So when we were at this stage, we were trying to figure out, well, we're missing the highlighting of the mismatched fields. We're missing a lot of just bring the fields together that are actually being joined on. If I had a multi-field join, in code at that time, there was no way we could bring them together. So we had to do a lot of work in order to bring those parts closer together. And at this point, you can see we have that blue box around the fields that are the join fields. But if you started scrolling, that stuff would become disjointed. And we started really thinking like, everyone just wants to look at those fields. The rest of it could almost go away if you're just trying to, evaluate the success of your join, setting it up. So we started looking at, well, can I take those fields, bring them off to the side in general, and then show the resulting set next to it. That took a lot of back and forth to sort of technically do it, as well as design to figure out how that really makes sense. And this is a lot closer to what you see in the product today. But this is basically when we were like, okay, take the fields, move them over, and you could have just this and nothing else, and it would be really, really useful. So this was pretty much the northern star that we were aiming for. And this is where we have landed in the product recently. So, like I showed you before, you've got this left pane, and it's got all the settings there, and then you've got the fields that you're joining on right in front of you with color highlighting to break things out a little bit more to your attention. And this was the moment where we took this idea where you have the settings and all of the different view levels, like the summary and stuff like that. Can we apply that to everything else? So we started looking at bringing that into the union, bringing that into pivot, bringing that into aggregate. And join was like the first experience that we really designed. And so we were able to take that experience and then push it through so that it was very consistent throughout the product. And then, again, it's just about iterating at that point. Things started feeling really good, really good. So one of the great things about designing a V1 is you get to see the unexpected stuff that people do with it. And then you get to use that and make the product a little bit better. So we would get crazy flows back from people and be like, what are you doing here? What are you trying to do? And they would tell us and be like, oh, I think we can make that easier. And then we would iterate on that a little bit more. One of my favorite ones is this. So this is one of my favorite flows because we use this in our test framework right now. When we first got it back from a customer, it took 20 minutes to show anything if you clicked on something. Select a node, go get coffee, come back, wait 10 more minutes, and then stuff showed up. So we said, that's terrible. Okay, so we started figuring out what's happening on the back end. What are all these processes that are happening? And so this is in our test framework because it used to take 20 minutes, now it takes 3 seconds. And so those are the types of fun things that you get after you start releasing stuff where you never thought, by any means, was this intended to do this? But those are the things you've got to figure out along the way. And so that's all I got. I have good questions, or I can give you time back, which is what we like to do. Otherwise, thank you for coming. I hope you had a great TC and the rest of your time here, and safe travels home. Any questions? Uh-huh.
I saw a little snippet in that clip, but for me, it's like we have it where it'll be XON, Exxon Space Mobile, Exxon Mobile. We'll have 30 different iterations of the same account.
Uh-huh.
And managing that grouping is really critical.
Uh-huh.
So if I could see that little nugget again, or have a little more detail in how to clean the data,
Sure.
that's really my biggest problem.
Yeah, let me show you that. So if you select a field, you can go into the drop menu and group and replace, and we have a bunch of predefined algorithms here that will do some of the work for you, right? So if you select one, it's just manual selection. So I could select one of these, and if I just want to add anything to it. I just add it to it. And so it's telling me now that this particular field is grouped. And these are the fields that are in it. And these are the fields you could put in it. We have some improvements we still want to make here. We want to allow you to be able to drag and drop things together, basically. So some of those interactions will still be coming. But you can always manually group stuff this way. You can always come up here also and try and run an algorithm over it, which will unfortunately blow away your current set.
If I do a data or an extract refresh, will that automatically continue to run on every data refresh?
Yeah. So every time you run the flow, it'll go, if you did an algorithm over it, it'll run the algorithm over the whole domain. So anytime new data comes in, and the product just builds a process, and it runs the data through the process. If you're collecting more and more values, when you run the flow again, it'll run over those values again. So if you have a huge data set, we only sample up to 1 million to make things pretty fast. You can pull it all in if you want. But the first million, if you have more than 1 million, you could bring it all in. And if you don't, and you run the flow, it'll do that algorithm over the whole set when it's running it. Yeah. Does that help?
Yes.
Cool. Her and then you.
We have the 1.1 version.
Uh-huh.
There have been a lot of improvements from that version.
A ton. Like 45 new features, hundreds and hundreds of bug fixes, major perf improvements. We've done 6 releases since then. So we release every month. I would definitely recommend trying to stay on that. The most recent one that just came out has a huge perf update. We were having a lot of hangs and stability problems earlier on, which we were unaware of when we first went out. And so we had to re-architect some of the back-end stuff, and we fixed that. And so we have a tremendous amount of successful runs now, and not nearly as many hangs. So we think that fixed it. But yeah, you probably want to stay up. We're trying to make that easier to do. Yeah. Did you have one?
So I think right now, to like kick off at the end of the pipe, you can either go to like a CSV or an extract,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the only 2 options, right?
Yeah.
So are there plans to kick it into something that might be like JSON or even another format or another analytics tool like SPSS?
Maybe.
Because I mean, one of
Yeah.
the things I have right now is like a whole bunch of code that I've written that does these, basically what this does, except it has to go into this other tool.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what our analyst does.
Okay.
And like, so I would love to be able to do something like this, because developing that shit can take forever.
Yeah.
And this will be a day.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not an option because it doesn't.
Yeah. Request it. Like all the things that we put into the product, most of them are from requests at this point. We have a huge backlog of things we want to accomplish, but we also, like, most of we listen to everything that people are asking for, and things get bumped up if a lot of people are asking for it. We try and, prioritize accordingly. We've been getting requests for that. We've got requests to write back to database a lot. So we're trying to balance a lot of that stuff and figure out how we can land a lot of those things. What is your code in? Is it Python? So the R Python script, did you see that?
Yeah.
So you could take your Python script, put it into the product, and then run it. But if you still won't be able to put it, that's right, yeah. 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 We'll try. We'll see.
I mean, it's your product, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, well, that's true. And I don't, other people. Did you have a question? Do we what? Oh, do we have all the same features as Alteryx? No. Alteryx has way more features than us. Alteryx has a ton more that it can do than we can do. And they probably always will. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then you.
These runs over the client side, like over the customer actually. Is there any way like to publish this into some server?
Yeah.
Have to schedule it?
Yeah. So you can publish this to server now as a data source. So you could publish, you can create as many outputs as you want in here and have them all published as different data sources. So if you wanted to create 10 data sources that are filtered for certain groups, you could do that all in one flow and publish them all at the same time up to your server. And then if you want to schedule it, so we just announced Tableau Prep Conductor, which is an add-on to your server deployment, which will schedule the running of the flows on server.
What I mean is like, this is like the ETL process of packaging.
Yep.
So whenever I jump into the server, I'll see the same flow over and over again. And if I want to review the schedule the flow specifically,
Uh-huh.
I can download it from the server,
Yep.
leave it in Tableau Prep,
Yep.
and I can publish it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, definitely. Did you have one? Oh, feedback on things you want? Yeah. There's the forum, community forum. If you just go into tableau.com and you can meander through community to forums, and there's a specific breakout for prep. And you can just write requests in there. And then people will vote them up. And we look at the ones that get voted up the most. Yeah. Or if you have a sales rep or something, you could ask them to make a request for you and see if that goes through a different channel. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of interest here. Can you see the SQL code behind the finished email?
No.
Because I would love to see.
You want to see it?
I want to see.
No, I don't think actually we can do that. So we actually use, we have our own sort of language on the back end that can transpose it into SQL, but it talks a different language if it has to. Yeah, we have gotten that request a lot of like, hey, can you spin this up for me and copy it out or something. But you currently don't have a way to do that I know of. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Is there an API as well? Or
Yeah. What specifically do you want to do with it?
We currently have
Oh,
application.
gotcha. I don't think we can do that yet. Yeah. We have a command line where you can run flows that way, just through your terminal. Yeah. But in terms of embedding it, I don't know of a way to do that yet. So, sorry. Yeah. Anything else? Great. Thanks. Have a great TC.